What if everything you thought was strength is actually weakness in disguise? The people who shout the loudest, react the fastest, explode under pressure, they're not powerful, they're controlled. Controlled by anger, by ego, by whoever pushed their buttons last. The truly unbreakable ones. They stay silent, they stay calm, and that stillness is the most terrifying power in the room. Today we're going to expose the secret of rising above reactions and how mastering this single skill can completely transform your life. Your relationships. Life never stops testing us. Difficult people, sudden setbacks, unexpected chaos. In these moments, how you respond reveals more about your character than any achievement ever could. Most people surrender their peace the moment things get hard. They say things they regret. They let emotion hijack every decision. But the strongest people, those who carry real inner strength, have cracked the code of rising above. They don't react of rising above. They don't react immediately. They observe, they reflect, and they respond with wisdom. In today's discussion, we'll uncover 4 key insights that explain why rising above is the hallmark of the strongest individuals and how you can cultivate this strength in your own life. The first principle of why the strongest people don't react is understanding that reactions are fleeting. But strength endures are fleeting. When faced with provocation, insult or anger, the natural response for most people is to answer immediately, often impulsively. A bitter word, a sharp gesture, or an emotional explosion can feel like relief in the moment. But it almost never solves anything and almost always leaves regret behind. The strongest individuals understand that real power exists not in the force of a reaction, but in the capacity to hold composure and clarity in the face of difficulty. Reactions are rooted in emotion, and emotions are temporary. When we react without reflection, we allow the external environment to commandeer our internal state. We selling balloons on the street. We abandon our peace, and in surrendering it we lose a fragment of ourselves to the situation. Strength, on the other hand, is built when we recognize that our responses must be guided by wisdom, not by raw emotional impulse. Consider the situation balloons on the street. Consider the situation where someone criticizes you unfairly. A reactive person might lash out, defend themselves aggressively, or strike back in anger. In that moment, they may feel powerful or justified, but afterward they often carry shame, regret, or the wreckage of a damaged relationship. The strongest people experience the same situation completely differently. They pause, breathe deeply, and ask themselves, will my response add value or worsen the situation? Will it reflect my character or my emotions? That pause, though small, is transformative. Strength comes from recognizing that every reaction sends ripples outward. Words and actions, once released, cannot be recalled. The strongest people absorb this truth and choose restraint. They understand that managing their reaction is not weakness but a declaration of self-mastery. Over time, this consistent discipline becomes instinct, shaping their presence, influence, and relationships. Another layer of this principle is perspective. The strongest know that life will never stop testing them. People who provoke circumstances out of their control, events that stretch patience to its limits. If we answer every trigger impulsively, we exist in permanent chaos. We will live in constant turmoil. By rising above, we preserve our energy, sharpen our clarity, and build an unshakable core of strength that holds firm through every storm. Moreover, this approach earns respect. People register calm in the middle of chaos. Those who remain composed while others unravel emotionally carry a quiet, undeniable authority. Their power is never announced loudly. It is recognized through the steady, unwavering presence they bring into every room. This is the kind of strength that builds trust, credibility, and influence in both personal and professional life. Finally, embracing the truth that reactions are temporary, but strength is enduring lets you reclaim your existence. You stop bleeding emotional energy towards situations and people who have never earned it. You build the discipline to act deliberately rather than react blindly. And gradually, this conscious commitment becomes a defining characteristic, a quiet, resilient, and unbreakable inner power that lets you rise above every challenge, no matter how fierce or sudden it arrives. The second principle of why the strongest people don't react is that they observe before they act. And this habit generates tremendous emotional power. In life, every challenge, criticism, or confrontation contains two layers: the external event itself and your internal response to it. Most people get trapped in the first layer. They register the insult, the barrier, or the provocation and respond instantly without considering the second layer, their own emotional state, the consequences of their response, and the lasting impact on themselves and others. The strongest people understand that real strength comes from commanding the second layer. Observation is more than simply watching what unfolds. It is about seeing clearly without the fog of anger, ego, or fear. It is about pausing long enough to evaluate the situation without bias, to understand the motives behind the words or actions directed at you, and to recognize the emotions swelling within yourself. This pause creates a powerful buffer between stimulus and response. By observing first, you gain perspective. You discover that not every insult is personal, not every obstacle is permanent, and not every provocation demands an immediate answer. This act of observation is the foundation of emotional intelligence. The strongest people develop the ability to identify their own emotional triggers, the behavioral patterns of those around them, and the ripple effects of their potential reactions. They ask themselves, will my response honor my values? Will it contribute to the solution or escalate the conflict? Will it protect my peace and integrity? By consistently asking these questions, they forge a self-mastery that no external circumstance can rattle. Consider a moment of criticism at work or in your personal life. An impulsive reaction might be to argue, justify yourself, or explode. But observation allows you to step back mentally, evaluate the situation, and select a response that reflects your chair rather not your emotions. Sometimes the most powerful move is silence. Other times it is a calm, measured response that settles the situation without generating further tension. Observation grants you the clarity to make that distinction. Observation also reinforces resilience. When you pause to grasp the bigger picture, you become far less vulnerable to being manipulated, redirected, or controlled by the actions of others. The strongest people know that not every battle belongs to them. By observing first, they guard their energy for challenges that genuinely matter and avoid being consumed by petty conflicts or unnecessary drama. This deliberate selectivity is a hallmark of unshakable strength. Furthermore, observation develops patience and humility. You begin to recognize that life's challenges are passing, and most provocations are temporary, and most provocations are fleeting. By waiting and reflecting, you create space to gain insight, spot patterns, and uncover the deeper lessons buried inside every situation, hidden in every situation. Over time, this patience becomes woven naturally into your character, and others begin to notice the composed, measured energy you carry into every interaction. The strongest people also use observation to convert potential reactions into constructive actions. What could have erupted as an impulsive outburst becomes instead an opening for learning, teaching, or expansion. They channel emotional energy into deliberate effort, producing results that are meaningful and permanent rather than impulsive and regrettable. Finally, by observing before acting, you gain dominion over your own mind. You stop being a hostage to your impulses, and instead you become the author of your responses, This power, the ability to choose how you react, when you react, and whether you react at all, is the very core of true emotional strength. It enables you to rise above disorder, conflict, and provocation, maintaining peace, dignity, not command in every situation. Observation balloons on the street. Observation before action is not a passive habit. It is an active discipline of self-control, insight, and awareness. By building this habit, you convert moments of potential conflict into platforms for strength, clarity, and expansion. You become someone who doesn't simply react to life, but who moves through it with intention, wisdom, and unwavering calm. The third principle of why the strongest people don't react is that inner peace is the true measure of strength. Strength is not proven by raised voices, aggressive actions, or the capacity to overpower others. It surfaces in the composed, grounded presence of a person who has conquered their mind and emotions. When life delivers its hardest blows, the strongest in balloons on the strongest individuals stay rooted, because their peace is not borrowed from outside conditions. It originates within, and it is this inner stillness that empowers them to rise above provocation, chaos, and conflict. Many people confuse reaction with power. When someone responds immediately, shouting, fighting, or retaliating, it can look like strength. But this version is temporary, fragile, and often destructive. Real strength, however, is silent. It appears as the capacity to hold composure when insulted, patience when tested, and clarity when surrounded by confusion. This composure is not something you're born with. It is built gradually through self-awareness, honest reflection, and disciplined daily practice. Inner peace creates clarity. When your mind is settled, you can evaluate situations without distortion. You are not swept away by passing emotions or outside pressure. Instead, you perceive the truth of the situation, the intentions of people, the weight of your choices, and the wisest direction forward. This clarity lets you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, shielding both your integrity and your relationships. Consider a situation where someone spreads false accusations or attacks your reputation. A reactor will balloon on the street. Vine might detonate in fury, defend itself aggressively, or even respond with identical tactics. In contrast, a mind grounded in inner peace can survey the situation, acknowledge the temporary nature of the provocation, and recognize the temporary nature of the provocation, and reply if necessary in a calm, measured. By doing so, you hold on to your dignity and self-respect, and you prevent unnecessary hemorrhaging of energy. Inner peace also functions as armor against outside chaos. Life is unpredictable, and people will forever test your patience, deliberately or otherwise. The strongest people recognize that they cannot govern others, but they can govern themselves. Their responses are directed by principles, not impulses. When you build inner peace, the storms around you may howl, but your mind stays anchored. Your choices stay rational, and your presence becomes a pillar of stability for everyone nearby. Another dimension of inner peace is emotional independence. Strong individuals do not chase validation from others. Nor do they permit anger, jealousy, or criticism to disturb their equilibrium. They understand that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the mastery of response, This independence frees them to move with purpose, concentrate on what genuinely matters, and avoid being pulled off course by insignificant provocations. Inner peace is also infectious. When you hold composure in tense situations, you lift the atmosphere around you. Others register the calm, anchored energy and frequently soften their own behavior in response. This quiet power is stronger than any loud argument or reactive confrontation. It expresses strength without aggression and authority without domination. Finally, developing inner peace demands deliberate practice. Daily rituals such as reflection, meditation, intentional breathing, or even consciously pausing before responding gradually train the mind toward calm under pressure. Over time, this practice rewires your default setting from impulsive to measured. You learn to move through life with the conviction that real strength is not about reacting to the world, but rising above it. When inner peace becomes your bedrock, you no longer need outside approval, reactive validation, or emotional explosions to feel powerful. Your strength becomes immovable, anchored in the knowledge that your composure and clarity define your character more than any external event ever will. This is the signature of the strongest people. The ability to stay unshaken, to rise above, and to convert every challenge into a chance for grace and expansion. The fourth principle of why the strongest people don't react is that responding rather than reacting elevates your life. Reacting is impulsive. It is ruled by emotion, circumstance, and often ego. Responding, however, is deliberate. It demands reflection, self-awareness, and a clear understanding of both the situation and your own interior. The strongest people understand that their behavior must always mirror their values and purpose, not simply their mood in the moment. By mastering this distinction, they convert every challenge into a launching pad for growth, learning, and lasting influence. Responding is a skill that creates freedom. When you react, you hand the steering wheel of your life to outside forces. Someone insults you and you explode. Someone criticizes you and you defend aggressively. Every reaction is a surrender. It is handing someone else the power over your emotional state and your behavior. When you respond, however, you reclaim that authority. You pause, evaluate, and select the course of action that best serves your purpose, your peace, and your self-respect. This deliberate choice elevates your life because it aligns your actions with the person you are genuinely building yourself to be. The strongest people also recognize that responding builds trust and respect in relationships. Reactivity typically intensifies conflict and fractures connection. Responding, in contrast, signals composure, empathy, and wisdom. People register the difference, the stillness, the thoughtfulness, and the capacity to handle friction with grace. Responding converts potentially destructive exchanges into opportunities for dialogue, understanding, and genuine influence. It establishes you as someone others lean on, not someone whose emotional state is unpredictable. Another critical dimension of responding is the long-range view it offers. Reacting is immediate and short-sighted. It chases instant relief or satisfaction, but almost never weighs future consequences. Responding accounts for the broader landscape, your long-term goals, your values, and the ripple effect of your choices. When facing difficulties, the strongest people ask, what result do I want years from now? How can I behave in a way that honors my principles and preserves my calm? This foresight guarantees that their actions are measured, strategic, and genuinely impactful. Responding also deepens resilience. Life is saturated with uncertainty, disappointment, and friction. By conditioning yourself to respond rather than react, you construct a buffer between stimulus and action. You cultivate patience, mental sharpness, not an emotional endurance. Every time you select a thoughtful response over a blind reaction, you reinforce a pattern that makes every future challenge more navigable, that makes future challenges easier to navigate. Sustained over time, this practice sculpts a character that is unshakable, confident, and quietly admired by others. Moreover, responding accelerates your personal growth. It opens space for reflection, discovery, and expanding self-awareness. Each tense moment becomes a mirror showing you your triggers, your patterns, and the edges where you still need to grow. The strongest people do not see challenges as enemies. They treat them as teachers that expose their strengths, their blind spots, and their next level. Responding rather than reacting keeps them permanently in learning mode, growing sharper and more grounded with every test life delivers. Finally, responding reshapes your entire relationship with existence. It cultivates calm, intentionality, and real freedom. It puts you firmly in the driver's seat of your own journey rather than being dragged along by circumstances. The strongest people transcend petty conflicts, provocations, and drama because they have deeply internalized this principle. They don't react because their interior world is built on values, clarity, and unshakable purpose. They respond because they understand that how they conduct themselves determines the quality of their days, the richness of their connections, and the legacy they eventually leave behind. Responding, not reacting, is a daily choice, a practice of mindfulness and a daily choice. A practice of mindfulness and a living demonstration of authentic strength. It sharpens every decision, every relationship, and every chapter of your life, allowing you to rise above every test with dignity, wisdom, and unwavering calm. Always remember this: real strength is quiet, deliberate, and rooted in unshakable inner peace. The strongest people never react impulsively to criticism, anger, or disorder. They pause, observe, and respond with wisdom. They grasp that reactions dissolve quickly, but composure, clarity, and dignity outlast everything. By rising above, you guard your peace, hold your self-respect, and earn the power to navigate existence with pure intention. Every challenge becomes a forge that sharpens your character, deepens your emotional growth, and positions you to lift others by example. When you commit to responding rather than reacting, you reclaim full ownership of your life, forge unbreakable trust in your relationships, and lay down a foundation of genuine, lasting inner strength. So step back, inhale, and take the elevated path. Let your stillness speak louder than the noise surrounding you. When you rise above, you don't just endure life's storms. You convert them into lessons, opportunities, and living proof of the extraordinary strength you already carry within.